let's begin with the update in the UK-Rwanda asylum deal. Judges at London's High Court have ruled that the British government's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda is legal, as it's also the fact that the asylum applications will be examined by the Rwandan authorities and not by the British authorities. On there, an agreement reached between both parties. The British government plans to deport migrants who arrive on its shores illegally to Rwanda, and applicants granted asylum will be eligible to remain in Rwanda, but will not be eligible to return to Britain. While both the British and Rwandan governments welcome the UK court decision giving the green light to the deportation of migrants, human rights groups, opposition politicians, charities and other organizations in the United Kingdom say the agreement is inhumane. However, the Rwandan government spokesman Alain Mukuralinda called the ruling a positive step towards solving the global migration crisis. Now, joining us to discuss this, we have my Goodfellow and author Jones from London, and Asong Michael Khumbah, member of the Rwandan Bar Association and East African Law Society, joins in from Cameroon, and also Priscilla Nwikpo, broadcaster, joins from London. Welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I'd like to start with Michael Asong. What do you make of the United Kingdom's court ruling saying that the plan to relocate asylum seekers to the United Kingdom is lawful?
As a matter of fact, I think that the judges ruled according to the law, according to the different set standards in the Refugee Convention of 1951 and the Protocol of 1967. So actually, these protocols provide that the refugees seeking for asylum, when they present themselves in the first country, they should be granted the possibility to make their claims for asylum. And actually, in UK, when the refugees arrive, they actually are granted that right. But nevertheless, those rights are not being granted, or their claims are not being granted by the UK government, will have to be sent to Rwanda for a re-evaluation of their asylum-seeking claim. So for me, I think that there is no violation of the law and that the ruling of the judges were perfect and in accordance with the law.
Thank you, Michael. Now, Priscilla, the Rwanda scheme has faced a lot of opposition from all quarters. United Nations Refugee Chief Filippo Grandi had earlier denounced the UK government policy as all wrong and said it should not be exporting its responsibility to another country. The Church of England leaders, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, had also criticised the deportation plan as one that should shame us as a nation. Why are so many people opposed to a scheme which has been touted by the British government as innovative and a solution to the migrant problem?
Thank you so much for having me. I think most people in the United Kingdom are so against this scheme because indeed the scheme itself, it's illegal. As you know, my colleague just said there, the law requires that you seek asylum in the first country that you arrive at. Now, according to the UK government, these migrants are coming in through the Channel. So they're coming through France. So if they're coming through France and coming through the Channel, and if we are to go by the law, why is it that they're not being processed in France? That is the first question. But then the answer to that is that the UK government has an agreement with France which allows for them to come through. And that is because they have failed to do what they're supposed to do on their part, the UK government that is, with their part of the agreement with France. And so France allows them to come through. Now, when they come through, they're in violation of the law, the UK government that is, because they failed to process their application appropriately. Now, if we rewind back to the 1990s, we have seen over time that the UK government has spent considerable time reducing the rights of refugees, or asylum seekers, or immigrants, if you want to put it that way. They have consistently restricted their ability to be able to have access to the full course of the law that they are entitled to. And so the UK government, for instance, have introduced things into their own system that restricts their appeal rights, that takes away the ability to be able to judicial review applications, that requires them to be deported back to their countries first before they can then apply for appeals. So, and then we had something called hostile environment that was introduced by the then Home Secretary, previous Prime Minister, Mrs. Theresa May, which we have seen over the years has done nothing but just reduce the plight of the refugee and made life so difficult for them in as many ways as possible. We're also somewhat weaponizing the word immigration here as well. So I suspect with all of that's going on, no wonder many people are up against it. No wonder people are taking a stand and saying, no, refugees are welcome. And then we also have to look at the origin of how these people become immigrants or refugees. Yes. For instance, it is as a result of things that are happening in their countries. Oftentimes, the UK government is responsible for that.
Thank you, Priscilla. I'd like to bring in Maya. Now, Maya, the United Kingdom government insists the policy is needed to stop a flood of all too often deadly crossings of the Channel from France by refugees and migrants, and that this scheme will serve as a deterrent. What do you make of this?
I mean, it's true that crossing is incredibly deadly. It's treacherous. People know that when they are making those journeys. And so I think we sort of have to change the narrative or sort of reverse the logic. For the past 20 to 25 years, successive British governments, whether it is the new Labour government, which was in the late 90s and throughout the early 2000s, or the coalition and Conservative governments, have said that they want to deter people from coming. But there's been successive Home Office, so the government's own department, looking into this, saying that actually these don't work as so-called deterrent measures. And so the reason is that the reason people are making these crossings, which I think is often lost in the debate here in the UK, is that there are so few safe routes of travel to be able to come to the UK to claim asylum. So for the vast majority of people, if you want to apply put in an asylum application to become a refugee, to have your claim looked at, you have to be in Britain. You can't do it from another country for most people. You have to be here. But there are very, very few government-sanctioned routes for most people to get here. So if we look at the figures, last year, of all the people who had their asylum applications approved in the UK, 11% came through these government-sanctioned routes. And that's because the government brings in so few people through these routes. So the government could do one very straightforward, very clear thing. They've known it for a very long time. Like I say, successive governments have known this. What they need to do is open up safe routes of travel. That means introducing things like humanitarian visas, like refugee resettlement routes, making it so that people don't have to risk their lives crossing the Channel. And I have to say, having studied the history of Britain's immigration policies and written about it extensively, we've heard politicians saying that they are sad when people die making these dangerous crossings, but they know what the solution is and they refuse to introduce these safe routes.
Thank you, Maya. Now back to you, Michael Asong. Human Rights Watch issued a public letter warning that serious human rights abuses continue to occur in Rwanda, including repression of free speech, arbitrary detention, ill treatment and torture. So why the choice of Rwanda? Why would the British government want to send people to a country with this sort of dubious record?
Very interesting question. It is worth mentioning that there have been many allegations towards Rwanda's different criminal procedures and in which people are being tortured and in which certain human rights are not being respected. But nevertheless, we don't have any concrete proof about all these evidences of all these things happening. Nevertheless, it is worth mentioning
so permit me to interrupt you there, Michael. Even the United Kingdom's own government has published a report talking about documenting Rwanda's human rights abuses. And just because you mentioned that there's no evidence, I would like to bring your attention to this. In 2018, Rwandan police shot at least 12 refugees dead as they protested outside the UNHCR office in Karongi district. This is documented and is factual. So why the choice of Rwanda with such a dubious human rights record? I mean, this you can argue with this fact. It did happen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gbenga. You know, we are talking here on a legal point of view. When you talk about evidence, evidence is all proofs of facts that has been verified and are true according to the law. So when you talk about report, a report is an opinion, but it needs to be verified and it needs to fit the standards of the court to become evidence. Okay, so that is why I said that they are reports. Around the world, there are so many reports. We have so many fake
but this
reports
is documented evidence that this thing happened.
No, it you cannot call
the
it
incident
evidence.
happened.
It's a report.
But let's move on.
Please, let me explain this to you. Evidence is when it has been proven and demonstrated by a competent authority. What they are giving are reports. Those need to be confirmed by the competent authority, which are either the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice. Nevertheless, this is what I wanted to say concerning the UK Rwanda Economic and Migration Development Partnership. So, considering that the asylum partnership and agreement is part of that package, it is worth mentioning that Rwanda has hosted 127,000 refugees in 2021. That is a report from the UNHCR. Moreover, in 2019, Rwanda actually came up with an emergency transit mechanism, which helped to relocate and host 827 refugees from Libya. So this is what we are looking at. We are looking at the capacity of Rwanda being able to host the refugees. And from these statistics, we know that Rwanda is able to host the refugees who will be coming from the UK.
Thank you, Michael. Priscilla, officials in the United Kingdom's own Foreign Office advised against any agreement with Rwanda, including a 20th of May 2021 memo saying it continued to advise Number 10 against engagement and suggesting it does not have a functioning asylum system in compliance with Refugee Convention obligations. I mean, this is the United Kingdom's own Foreign Office. So why, despite knowing all of this, is the UK government hell-bent on this deal?
I think the UK government are hell-bent on this because, you know, as I've said earlier, over the years it's been their policy to, it's been a constant barrage of we must remove asylum seekers, or asylum seekers are coming to take over our jobs, or asylum seekers are, taking too much away from the indigents, for instance. And so, it's been the policy of the government to remove refugees or asylum seekers. But you're sending them to Rwanda, you're criticizing Rwanda for what you say Rwanda are failing to do, or that they don't have the system that is available. You have the system here, you say, but then who is acting more inhumane in these circumstances? Because surely the British government should be able to act more humane by processing these asylum seekers or being able to house them adequately. At the moment, the system is such that, we have heard so much in recent weeks about the plight of asylum seekers and what they're being subjected to and what they are going through. I am not sure that this Rwandan policy is one size fits all, or that is going to resolve the issue. I think that obviously when they get to Rwanda, what the UK government are hoping for is that it takes away their problem. But would they be able to send everybody to Rwanda? I don't think so. And are the Rwandan government going to be prepared? They say they are, to process these applications. And we understand that they will be processed. And if they do get through, they will then be brought back to the United Kingdom. I don't see how that's going to work. I think the government themselves are failing to let us, the people, know, because if the Foreign Office is advising against it, but then you've got the cabinet insisting on it, who also make up part of the Foreign Office, then it doesn't make sense. It begs the question, what is it that we are not understanding? And why is it that they refuse to hear, the British people who are saying, no, we do not agree with this policy. We don't want this policy.
Thank you, Priscilla. Now, Maya, it's often said that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. I do recall a few months ago when the then Home Secretary Priti Patel tried to offshore some refugees to Rwanda. The European Human Rights Court stepped in and issued a last-minute injunction which prevented that. Now, the British High Court, London High Court, did issue an injunction saying that, look, this Rwanda deal is legal. So are there still avenues to appeal the court's judgment on this Rwanda deal? And also, can you tell us about the mind frame of some of those refugees and that might be deported? What's their psychological state of well-being? And yes.
Yeah, I certainly expect that there will be further legal challenges. And from my understanding of the judgment yesterday is this isn't just saying it's blanket, this policy is so-called legal, but the Home Secretary will have to judge each case in order to make the case to deport someone to Rwanda. And I think one of the really key thing here, so you mentioned, the frame of mind of people who are facing this kind of deportation. We know when there was that scheduled flight that didn't take off, where many people were removed from it, some of the people who were due to be deported talked about the fear, the uncertainty, what it means to be then separated from people who are maybe in the UK, the people who have made very, very difficult journeys to get here in the first place, perhaps being reunited with loved ones, to then face the possibility or have the possibility of being reunited with loved ones, to then have this possibility of being taken to a country you perhaps have no ties to, you don't know at all. And I think this is the key thing here. We can talk about the law, we can talk about what the British government wants, we can talk about the Refugee Convention, but ultimately we are talking about human beings. We are talking about people for many different reasons who've had to leave their homes, often making incredibly dangerous, incredibly uncertain and incredibly frightening journeys to get to a country like the UK because they maybe have friends here, or they have family here, or they speak English, or they are coming from a country that was perhaps colonized by the UK, and so they have some kind of cultural ties to this country. And the British government is saying, you can't come here. And I think really what we need to have is a massive change in how we talk about asylum and immigration in Britain. It doesn't seem like that's what's going to happen with the current political climate. But the problem really here is not the people who are coming to claim asylum. The problem ultimately is government policy towards these people.
Thank you, Maya. Now, Michael, many observers have expressed amazement at the choice of Rwanda. Last year, Britain itself called for an independent investigation into extrajudicial killings, deaths in custody, torture in Rwanda. What type of life should these refugees expect in Rwanda? What sort of arrangements have been made by the Rwandan government for them, given this background?
We cannot, as I earlier on said, we cannot be focused on that background because these are reports which have been given and they need to be proven beyond reasonable doubt through evidence.
Yeah, but the British government is calling for an investigation into Rwanda.
I agree. It is calling for an investigation in Rwanda, and the investigation will be carried out according to the set principles of the International Criminal Court or any other organization that is being accredited to carry out those investigations. But yet, they are still facts. They are not yet evidence. Now, when these investigations will be carried out, and then they will bring proof beyond reasonable doubt, then from there, we can start accusing Rwanda for anything else. But as of now, these investigations have not been fully carried out. We just have reports, we just have facts, whose veracity have not yet been proven beyond reasonable doubt by the competent institutions. And that is the reason
is it not a blight to Rwanda's record that they've been investigated for extrajudicial killings? Just the morality of it. But let's move away from that. What type of life should these refugees be expecting in Rwanda, and what has the Rwandan government prepared for them to have, a seemingly good life?
What you have to know is that in Rwanda, we have a law on refugees of 2014, which actually organizes every role and procedure that requires asylum-seeking complaints and all the rights of the refugees. The rights of the refugees are clear. They have the same rights of the citizens. They have rights to move about. They have rights to employment. They have rights to lodging. They have rights to a decent living. So all these rights are being preserved by the Rwandan government through its ministry in charge of management of refugees. So everything is okay here, and there are even locations, there are about 6 refugee sites here in Rwanda, which provides every necessary assistance for the refugees. So if we are to look at the quality of life of the refugees here, it is beyond reasonable doubt that there is not complaint. And that is the reason why I actually spoke of the report coming from the UNHCR saying that as of now, as of 2021, Rwanda had about 27,000 refugees. And in 2019, they actually carried out the emergency transit mechanism that hosted 824 refugees from Libya. That is what we are looking at. We are looking at the refugees who are here in Rwanda. What is their situation? Is there any complaint about them? That's what we are looking at. And
yeah,
so
but the
far,
refugees in Rwanda in 2018 were shot by Rwandan police for protesting in Karongi district. That's a contradiction.
Yeah, it's a contradiction. I totally agree with you. But what I'm saying is that these are facts. They are reports. Now, we need to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they actually committed the error to do that. So that is why it's a quite complex situation. And I blame foreign nations. Why? Because they know all the procedures to take if there is a particular violation of human rights in a particular nation. Why are they not taking those procedures? Why are they not seizing the International Criminal Court through the mechanism?
Rwanda is not a signatory to Rwanda is not a signatory to the Rome Convention.
You must not be a signatory.
You
must not be a signatory. You must not be a signatory to be brought to the ICC. There's an extraordinary procedure through the UN Security Council. Why are they not making use of it? And that is why I say that I take all their reports and all their facts as blurbs, because if you know what to do, as a legal practitioner, as a legal expert, then seize the right mechanism so that justice should be done.
Thank you, Michael. I'd like to bring in Priscilla from London.
Thank you.
Yeah, Priscilla, what's in it for Rwanda apart from the £140 million? Rwandan government has also said it would only be able to process about 200 refugees in 1 year. So what's in it for them? Why do they want to do Britain's dirty job?
Well, I suspect, as you said, it's the money that they've been paid, because I'm sure that money will go a long way towards further development of Rwanda, and will also help Rwanda. Perhaps some of the asylum seekers may also be skilled individuals. They often are. They are not people who come into the system and often want to be reliant on the system. We find here in the United Kingdom that there are individuals that come in and they contribute to the system. They better themselves. And so perhaps, this would be another way for Rwanda to have skilled labor, outside of the finances that they're also gaining from the payment from the United Kingdom. But let's hope that also is a plus for the 200 people that will get to go to Rwanda. I hope that they too will be able to benefit from the scheme, and it's not just a case of the UK government, just washing their hands off them and the Rwandan government enjoying the payments that they are receiving.
Thank you, Priscilla. Now, Maya, finally, before we wrap up our conversation, what options does the United Kingdom have in dealing with illegal traffickers and the wave of asylum seekers that cross the channel from France? What other options are they open to? Hello, Maya, are you still there? Okay, I think we lost Maya Goodfellow. Now, I'll just direct that question to Priscilla. Since you're in the United Kingdom, what options does the UK have in dealing with this illegal traffickers and the wave of asylum seekers that cross the channel from France?
I think one of the things that the UK government need to do, one of the things that they need to do initially, is to let us stop creating this narrative. We have turned the plight of asylum seekers into conversations that we're having here in the UK on a daily basis. We're then giving them tags that are not unfair to these individuals. As I made mention earlier, as they are coming through the channel, I think that for the UK government to be able to address this issue as it should, they need to revisit their agreement with France, because they were supposed to, if I'm right, if I understand this correctly, they were supposed to also build a post at the French end of the channel, so as to also process them as they come through. But they refuse to do that according to France. And so thus you see they're able to come through. So I think that the UK government needs to review their policy in the way that they handle asylum seekers coming through, because more than 200 are coming through in any 1 year. And so the solution is not to send 200 people to Rwanda. And then what happens to the other thousands that are coming through in any 1 year? We need to address the problem properly. We need to assess their applications properly. We need to also review our laws as well, because once upon a time you could claim asylum and that would be processed, and if it was being processed, you didn't have to, there was a right of appeal. Your rights were not taken away. But what has happened is that, as I mentioned earlier, they have reduced the rights of asylum seekers, and so when the process is going on, you could be subject to removal whilst it's happening. You could also, you're denied assistance, for instance, and so it puts them all in a very, very precarious predicament. So I think that the government needs to stop what they're doing, reassess their laws, and address the asylum situation properly.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the conversation. And I'd like to say thank you to Asong Michael Khumbah, member Rwanda Bar Association, and also Maya Goodfellow, who joined us from London. Thank you all for being part of the conversation. Do appreciate your contribution and time.